This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, April 30th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Federal agents this morning conducted multiple raids on Denver-area VIP Cannabis. The dispensary and 3 other buildings were raided over what feds allege is a conspiracy to launder $500,000 in Colombian money to buy a grow site in Denver. Agents with the Drug Enforcement Administration, Internal Revenue Service, Diplomatic Security Service, and the U.S. Marshals Service, along with officers from the Denver Police Department and state and local law enforcement, participated in the raid that also included Denver firefighters cutting open 2 safes. One of the buildings was linked to one of the 4 suspects, David Furtado, an attorney. 3 other men, Gerardo and Luis Uribe and Hector Diaz, are charged in the indictment. VIP Cannabis was raided back in November, and Hector Diaz was charged on weapons violations after authorities obtained a Facebook photo of Diaz wearing a DEA cap and brandishing 2 assault rifles. Georgia Governor Nathan Deal has signed into law a bill that requires passage of a drug test in order to collect food stamps and welfare benefits. Previous attempts in Florida to maintain a drug test for welfare law have been struck down as unconstitutional and proven to cost taxpayers more than they save in benefits denied. Georgia's law avoids the constitutional question by requiring, quote, reasonable suspicion, end quote, that an applicant may be using drugs. Triggers for this so-called reasonable suspicion include, but aren't limited to, arrest records, prior failed drug tests, termination from a job for drug use, previously applying for or working in a job where drug testing was conducted, missed appointments, or, quote, an applicant's or recipient's demeanor, end quote. The applicant is forced to pay for the drug test, and if failed, he or she becomes ineligible for benefits for a month to up to a year, and thereafter must test negative to receive benefits. A U.S. representative has introduced a federal bill to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. Morgan Griffith, a Republican from Virginia, has introduced the Legitimate Use of Medicinal Marijuana Act. Virginia has a law from 1979 that allows doctors to prescribe marijuana for certain conditions, but marijuana's Schedule 1 status forbids its prescription anywhere in the United States. This is why the 21 medical marijuana states rely on doctors' recommendations, which the Supreme Court upheld as a First Amendment right. Representative Griffith asked, quote, isn't it cruel to not allow real doctors, real drug companies, and real pharmacists to use marijuana for legitimate medical reasons for real patients? We use all sorts of opioids under the same scenario that this bill would allow us to use marijuana, end quote. If the bill passes, marijuana would join other prescribable Schedule 2 drugs such as Adderall, Ritalin, OxyContin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. Yes, under current federal law, meth and coke are prescribable, and pot is not. The Colorado Symphony Orchestra is jumping into the recreational marijuana green rush. The orchestra announced new fundraising concerts called Classically Cannabis, the High Note Series, organized by edible events companies Jane West, and will be open to adults 21 and over. Tickets will cost $75. The first 3 shows will take place with a small ensemble in a downtown Denver gallery, and the series culminates with a 4th full orchestra concert at Red Rocks Amphitheater. The gallery will feature a separate area for adults to consume cannabis, and Red Rocks was notorious for open pot smoking long before even medical marijuana was approved in the state. While one musician and a few symphony supporters have voiced concerns, many sponsors were excited about the idea, with one telling Associated Press, quote, you can be intelligent and savvy and enjoy cannabis as well, end quote. This just in from the Marijuana Policy Project. The Vermont Senate gave final approval Wednesday to a bill that will expand access to medical marijuana for qualified patients. It will now be sent to Governor Peter Shumlin, who has expressed support for the measure. S-247, sponsored by Senator Jeanette White, a Democrat from Windham, will eliminate the cap on the number of patients who are allowed to access medical marijuana dispensaries. Currently, only 1,000 total patients are able to access dispensaries. The measure will also increase possession limits for dispensaries, allow them to deliver medical marijuana to patients, and permit naturopaths to certify patients for the program. The bill was amended by the House to initiate 2 studies, one to explore the possibility of adding post-traumatic stress as a qualifying condition for the state's medical marijuana program, and one to evaluate the potential impact of making marijuana legal for adults and regulating it similarly to alcohol. And a reminder, this Saturday is the Global Cannabis March all around the world. Join me and Herb Thrasher and most of Portland area's marijuana reformers for our march. We begin at Pioneer Courthouse Square at noon. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, April 30th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and take a look at the sentencing of THC Ministries' Roger Christie today in Hawaii. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.